So this was a content piece by Tery to give people, his opinion on the top 100 players of all time. I think he's had a little bit of help from random people, but I think there are a couple stipulations in there. Like, for example, like he says something like the number 87th player isn't like that much worse than like the number 60 player. But I think that's kind of bullshit, and I'm gonna act like there is, because I think there should be. Like, I think if you're going like 3 tiers between, there should be like a pretty big difference between, who number 85 is and who number 60 is. So he has like a couple, things. There's, the eras, which I totally agree with. It's like a NBA thing as well. Like it's hard to judge Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, even Michael Jordan to an extent against the players today. And you have to weigh the competition, how much better people have gotten. Everybody who's good now is built off of somebody before, right? But there are a couple problems here: error problem, mega problem, stats problem, whatever. But typically, it's just what was your impact on the game, right? How many times did you win, if at all? How many times did you make playoffs? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he starts out with some honorable mentions. There's Evil Mr. Muffins, which, I mean, sure. I don't know. I remember him. Sure. Felon. This res is a little bit different here. Res is a little bit worse, but let's move past that. Felon. I think Tony. So Tony was actually on like one of my first like real TF2 teams. Like I joined his intermediate team like midway through the season. I think I rang for a match or something because their player couldn't play. And I remember Felon specifically like really like playing with me, which probably like solidified my spot on that team. And then ever since then, I mean, I think I played an invite season with him. But we were like close friends for a while. Like we would like play Quake together and stuff. I think Felon, based on my like remembrance of here, wait, let me change the title a little bit here. Tony like played for a really long time. So like everybody from before, everyone from like the like right here it says like season 4 and 5, and then he played with me like season 6, 7, something like that. So still pretty old school. It's hard to judge those players well, I would say. But Felon specifically was a player who played for a really long time. Like he was pretty good back then. I would say like just as good as players like Paladin, who you'll see later in this list, and probably deserved to be on the list and not just an honorable mention, just based on his longevity playing the game as well as him being a good player back then. It seems like a lot of his teammates were put on the list and like people from that era who like quit, like a decade prior to Felon basically. But I think Felon should be on the list. So a little bit of a disagreement there. I would say honorable mention. Bloodsire, I feel like would be worth putting on the list just as like the gatekeeper. Like I'd be fine with Bloodsire number 100 because the amount of impact that he's had on the game, even if he didn't play that much in Invite, which he did. He played like a good amount. He should have made LAN, I think, one season. But he had like a lot of impact on the game. When I was like getting good at TF2 and I was like seeing people who could snipe or whatever, I like checked out auto aim and it like totally blew my mind, like the shit that people could do. So he's had like a long legacy. He had like those pyro videos that were like really impressive for the time. So I think like he, while not having like much accolades to his name, like probably deserves to be on this list. Alex IDXC, again, like hard to really say because he's obviously incredibly good now, but you'd have to like go through every single slot of the list to see where he would slot in, because he could definitely take the place of like, I don't know, number 100 right now probably, and I'd be fine with it. Anime Man, what the fuck? I don't even know. To be honest, I completely forgot Anime Man played the game, so for him, I don't have any opinion. Number 100 through 91, okay. So number 100, Alex What? This is like before my time, which is like kind of crazy because I started playing this game like competitively in like 2010, 2009. So this was like even before me, really, even though his years active include like 2010. Yeah, Alex Wood is like a real boomer, like a true real boomer. Oh, sorry. He, I don't know. I think in Alex Wood's case, he's just sort of like an author bias type thing, because I never would have thought of Alex Wood. He was definitely really good back then, but I feel like it's a little bit like, unless you were like as good as Reptile, for example. Of course, he remembers. Reptile definitely remembers Alex Wood. If you were as good as Reptile, for example, back then, that means a lot. But like Alex Wood was not like Reptile level of good, and I think it's a little bit like disingenuous to people like him to like kind of like, or to the game as a whole, to like sneak him onto the list on number 100 when he like played for 2 years, 2 seasons played, 2 playoff appearances. I don't even think he played at LAN, because this was like season 3 was before ESEA LAN. So like this is like literally like online gaming, you know. So I don't know. I probably wouldn't have him on the list. Like you could probably replace Alex Wood with Alex.exe, and I'd be like absolutely fine with that. Saber 07, it's hard to like not spoil it because it's so like there's not enough space. But Saber 07, sure, again, like really like before my time, kind of like I was very aware at the time of like the memes. Like he had like the whole haha meat shot meme or whatever, that I was definitely around for and remember soaking in. But like in terms of seeing his gameplay, like it was way beyond my time. I was really only paying attention to like the enigmas, you know. Another like questionable inclusion, I would say, like these people picked up the game really early and then left really fucking fast. Like this is 1 year of gameplay, again, just like Alex Wood, 2 seasons played, 2 playoff appearances, 1 championship. And a championship back then, you have to realize, is like, again, it's impressive to win it all, but when you're playing against people that, you know, people were probably using fucking ball mice in Invite back then. I'm not even joking. Like really bad laser mice and stuff. Like they're obviously like really good players, but I think to earn an inclusion on the list, I feel like you have to have done that for a pretty long time. Ball mice. I'm just joking about ball mice, but you know what I'm saying. Like Saber 07, another one where I didn't really like. I feel like he's more well known for like saying haha meat shot than he is as like a player. So like another like questionable, like would I put Bloodsire in instead of Saber 07? Like probably, just in terms of like name value, like what he did for the game in terms of like the auto aim frag video was like huge, like fucking enormous for the game, to be honest. Valen seemed like Valen's another one where like he played more than 1 season. I don't know why he is listed as 1 season. This is just invite, I guess. He played like 1 invite season. He like had like a perfect season. Like he won every single game and won every single LAN match, which is like really impressive. He didn't only play 1 at like the top level, but to have like Valen, like I don't know, like 2011 is really when things picked up, I would say, in TF2. So like this was like a really impressive win as opposed to like having a championship in like Saber 07's time. Like having 1 championship out of 2 and having like 1 out of 1 here, like a pretty big difference. And then, you know, again, like 0 champ. Like this was just like a really impressive span of time, and I would be like absolutely fine with like Valen being like at least number 90 or something, because it feels like kind of weird to have him like with a bunch of these people that like played a really long ass time ago. Like 2011 is when like YZ50 was like breaking out into the scene, you know what I mean? Like it was like a lot more than just like old school gaming. It was like YZ50 like starts playing and people are like, what the fuck? Like, how is it even possible to play this well? Like, how your fucking aim is like insane. Like, he had that like stint as OTR Ice where people just thought he was like cheating and shit, where he changed his name and just played in an alt. So like, I don't know. I think Valen probably at least should be like number 90 or something, because he really, like, he quit super fast, like only one season played, one season won, but it was like a dominant season, like super dominant. Maybe the competition could have been better, because I think that was like a little bit of like a dip moment when like the teams were kind of shuffling around because of what happened the prior season, but still. Giggly guy, sure. Giggly was, I wouldn't say he was like the carry of EMG or anything, but he was there and he did contribute. And he was also part of the team that really shook everything again. Um, Giggly came in season 7 of EMG and won, right? And like that's when all of like the old guard was still playing and like still dominating. So like you had like the Carnages, the Platinums and all that stuff, and he came in and he won, which is huge. Because nobody expected that. Like they definitely weren't the first seed going in. They had like 2 scouts that were like new to playing, really like new to like being at the top echelon. They had Tyrone and Mackie, so it was like kind of out of nowhere. So definitely like a really impressive win. So he deserves to be on this list. Muma number 95 is like a huge insult to Muma, I would say. Like a lot of like what's said in this blurb is like strange to the point where like I feel like I don't know anything about Tery and I'm not like insinuating anything, but if you told me that Tery hated Muma, I would not be surprised, because this is like really questionable. Like everything that's said in this little blurb is like really insulting and a huge snub to Muma. Like that season I came back for TF2 like right before Overwatch came out. Muma was like pretty good. Like Muma was like not like, I would say like the 2 top performers on our team were obviously me and Banny, right? Like that's not a surprise, but like Muma was like up there. He was good. And like you can see like seasons played, like he played one season like not on the Banny team. They like got like I don't know, whatever. He was like 1-15, 8-8. But then he joined Freyotech and they won 2 championships. He also got 3rd at the I series, which like like I know it's like NA invite, so they're trying to like just condense it to NA players, but like Muma getting 3rd at I series is like really good. Like that's another tournament like under his belt. Like he was good enough to go, right? Because like the best team is the team typically, unless you're sending 2, that goes to the I series events, and he got 3rd. And like I don't know, like I series is like the biggest competition that you could play against, because it's like you usually another really good NA team and then the best EU teams. So I don't know, like it affecting his like reputation is kind of bullshit, because to be honest, like that's the opportunity to even go there didn't exist for everybody else on this top 10, and even on the next 10, and probably even on the next 10. So he should definitely count positively, I think, toward his ranking. So this is like a huge snub. I think calling like the tenure serviceable is like just a huge snub. I think so. Big question mark there. Sky being ahead of Muma. I like Sky. Like I've always liked Sky. She's like a good medic. She's like one of the medics that I like would always prefer to have if like I were pugging, because she just like plays well and she tries hard. But like if you just look at the accolades and stuff, it's not even like really close, and it's like entirely based on just longevity, which you can value longevity, but it's weird to have people who just played for a really long time. I actually didn't even really mention Casey. Casey is, I guess I'm fine with it. He played medic and he was, on like one of the best teams in the game. So as like an early medic, I think that's fine to have him at least number 97. Muma, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Sky, like longevity is not really like, it's important, I think, if you're like a really dominant and good player. But like if you're just kind of playing for a long time, I don't think that necessarily should like give you a spot on like the top 100, under like the stipulation of like the way that Tery is like ranking medics. Then Sky gets a little bit of a boost, because medic is like, again, like really like a thankless class in a lot of ways, and you don't have like the eye test is like, it's harder to see. You're looking for mistakes as opposed to looking for good play with medic, whereas like when you're watching a scout or you're watching like a soldier, They can honestly make a mistake, and as long as it looks flashy, people are like, "Oh shit!" You can't really get that with medic. So like, I understand, but Sky should definitely not be ahead of Muma. Like I feel like Sky in some situations has gotten like shit for being like ahead of Muma, but that's really like the fault of Muma being so low as opposed to her being so high. Mason, like another one where it's like putting Mason above Muma is just like absolutely crazy to me. This is like entirely based on like longevity, but not even really because it's like seasons played 5 versus seasons played 3. Not a big difference. One of them was like a top demo in the game, and then one of them played on mix up for like a very small amount of time. So I think versatility here might have like given him a little bit of like a boost, which I think is kind of bullshit as well. I don't think versatility really matters so much unless you're like a really good player, like Banny, right? Banny's obviously number 1 on this list. Like, there's absolutely no like discussion whatsoever. But if there were, Bandy's like ability to go from class to class and be the best across like 3 different classes really matters a lot, as opposed to just kind of being like average, like middle of the pack or even lower invite player on like 3 different classes. Like I could have done that on demo. It's not really like, I don't really value it that highly. Boar, I don't really know anything about Boar. Like I guess he's a Highlander typically player. Like Highlander. I don't really know much about Boar. Again, Boar like being ahead of like Muma is like absolutely crazy. LOL guy, kind of surprised at how low he is on this list in terms of medics, because like if you rank him against like the other medics you see on this list within the top 90 to 100 is like really strange. Like again, like I think Sky's really good, but LOL guy is like absolutely like tiers above almost every medic in this game. So I'd say strange. So all in all, I mean like this 10 players is a big mix, I guess, of the really old and the really new. It's okay. Going into this list, I will say also, I fully expected like the 100 to 80 to be like really old players, and then maybe players who won, or not players who won, players who finished in like the playoffs and stuff, like players like I guess Sky, or players like LOL guy if you minus a championship, like players who made playoffs, who like got second or third and like lost to like the bannies, the mix-ups, the whatever. That's what I expected, but I see a lot of like mixing of both, where like Muma's sitting here with 2 championships in the same tier, which is strange. So let's go to 90 to 81 here. Like Paladin's another strange one. I think to put Paladin at number 90 and to not have Felon on the list is really strange. He like came in one season to sub for Sickness in the finals because like Sickness's like internet went out or whatever. I guess like stats wise he was like a pretty good player, but he's literally a super boomer. Yeah, I agree with that. Like Felon and Paladin, like if Paladin's going to be on this list, he should be back to back with Felon for sure. 100% agree with what Reptile's saying. So like weird to have him at number 90. Like that's an entire tier. Like that's 2 tiers really ahead of Felon. Felon's not even on the list, but he's Felon is an honorable mention, not even number 100. So strange. Hero, maybe even like a little bit low. Like again, like if I compare Hero to Paladin, Hero is like played for so much longer, could like hang back then, but could also hang in like the later years of TF2, like for his time. Like he was playing season 13, like season 12, 13, 14 on like some of the best teams in the game. And that's like crazy. Like he was like a backup for a lot of teams too, and like he could always hang. So it's like a little bit like he proved that he was good enough to not only play back then, but also come back and play to like a serviceable / good level. Yeah, like we went to LAN one time, so I don't know. I think like Hero being like below Hubris and even in the same conversation as Paladin isn't what I would do. Like Hubris, another one. I mean, Reptile could give you like the lowdown on Hubris. I don't even like know anything about Hubris really. Hubris is like super fucking old school. Another one that's like 3 playoff appearances, 3 seasons played. Quit in 2009. I mean, I've heard of Hubris. Like, that's definitely when I like started playing the game. Like, I knew that he was a player. But again, to have him ahead of Hero is just like weird. I don't mind his placement on the list if Hero and Muma is like remember every single time that you see one of these players, like Hubris, who played in 2008 to 2009, definitely a solid player when he played, you know, like good player. Just realize that he is behind Muma or ahead of Muma. So like I think like the placement on the list like kind of confuses me, mainly just because I'm looking back at like players like Hero. Even still, like Hero should be way ahead of every single super boomer, should be way below Hero because he came back and he played and he was still good. And obviously they should be like way below Muma. Zaylor, I never really played when like he played when Campy played, but like I guess I don't really mind his placement here. Like I mean, again, like in my, I guess like in my world, I'd probably have him in like the 70s because I think he deserves to be like higher than a lot of the people who like quit in 2009. Because he's like not only like a really good player, but he's like played for 3 years, 5 seasons played, 4 playoff appearances, like played really well. I think like once you get rid of like the super boomers, like from like 100 to 80, like the people who just like played a really long time ago and like got like a couple playoffs appearances and stuff, you should start including people like Zaylor. So I'd say probably he deserves like a higher placement. Again, like just putting him in the neighborhood of like some of these really old players is like weird. Yosh, again, like not, I mean, I played against him for like a little bit, but then like I went to Overwatch for like so long, and then that's like when he played the most, like 2018 to 21. I like wasn't even touching TF2, so don't really know enough about him to argue whether he should be included or not, or should be higher or not. Sickness definitely deserves to be on this list. 3 spots ahead of Hubris though. I feel like Sickness is like also like another one. He's like a hero almost, even though he didn't play for as long. He was like one of the best scouts in the game before things started shaking up. So I don't know. I feel like Ryan should maybe bump a little bit up. Like I think like if you got the players like Hubris and Paladin and like these people back a tier back to like the 95s and stuff, then I would agree a lot more with Sickness's placement. Brand Slam, I feel like beating Banny one time should definitely move you higher than 84. Because like this, not only does he have a championship, like I don't think anybody who's even won a single time should be with people who haven't won, unless they're like the Zaylers who are like top performers and like incredibly good and made playoffs like every season just to lose to the best team. Like Brand Slam's another one of those where like he made playoffs every season he played, beat Banny, which is like a huge accomplishment. Like a Banny win counts so much more than like a non-Banny win, I think. Like especially if you're only counting one of them. Like winning once with Banny is like definitely less impressive than winning once against Banny. So definitely a little bit of a snub here, I would say, especially considering like he doesn't like show any signs of stopping, and he's like been like a pretty big driving force in that team. And then, you know, obviously like beat Banny last season. So Tag, a little bit of a strange placement again. Like I wouldn't say like if I thought of like Bear and I thought of Tag, or I thought of TF2, like just really good players in TF2, like no offense to Bear, I would 100% think of Tag before him. Like Tag won 2 championships, 4 out of 6 of his seasons played, he made playoffs. Again, third at I-49. Weird that they say this about Tag, but not about Muma. Like you could count I-49 for Tag, but like not count I-58 for Muma. But yeah, Tag should definitely be much higher than this. Again, like having any championships, especially during like a golden era of TF2, I would say like this is when again like a lot of the people you see up here, like the hubris's, the sicknesses, like they all became like they all got like sort of pushed out of the game over time. And then once like I would say like the YZ50 era is really when things like shit hit the fan. I mean, like I guess you can say like a couple seasons before that when like Platinum was like an up and comer back then. But like when shit hit the fan, it's when like EMG won season 7. So if he like won anywhere near that time and after that time when like they like again like I started playing, Banny was like the best player in the game, Platinum was still playing, Enigma, like just really like huge names, like super skilled. If you won it all back then or even made playoffs, like you should definitely be like way ahead of people who just like played in 2008. You know, no offense. Um, yeah, like Bear, like this is like a longevity inclusion, and like I don't disagree with like Bear being on top 100 in general, but he should be nowhere near like ahead of Muma, for example. And he's way ahead of he's 13 spots ahead of Muma. Like longevity, he's definitely got it. Playoffs, 8 out of 10 seasons, but like when you compare it to like players that had like pretty good performances slash like won multiple times, like Tag and Muma, I would say you definitely include them over Rakuso. Another like longevity inclusion. Like I always thought Rakuso was really funny, like playing pugs with him, but like he's so much higher than Muma and Tag. Like I mean, not that much higher than Tag, but so much higher than like Muma, right? So it's like a little strange. And like again, going back to like what he said before, like oh, I don't think the 87th player is that much better than like the 64th player. I like completely disagree with that. Like that, you might as well not make a list, a numbered list, if you're gonna say that like number 85 wasn't that much worse than number 60. Like I think that's a pretty big difference. That's like if you're going like number 81 to 85, whatever. You know, once you're like skipping down tiers, I think there should be like at least like a very clear, if you can find like a difference between the players who are in the 70 to 80 range or the 80 to 90 range and the players who are in the 90 to 100 range, you know? So like Rakuso, like again, not a person that I would like disagree being on this list, but like, should he be like a tier up? Probably. When you look at, you know, who he made it in over. So yeah. Moving on, 80 to 71, Marmaduke Grills. My boy, I fucking love Marmaduke Grills, man. If I had a say in this list, if you told me, Clock, you can put whoever the fuck you want at number 1, and that's who we're keeping at number 1, I'd put Marmaduke Grills at number 1. Fucking love this guy. Probably still too high though. I don't know. Actually, number 80, not that bad of an inclusion for him, I would say. When you, in a vacuum, number 80, not the worst. When you compare it to, again, what I've been saying for the last 5 minutes, then definitely too high. But all in all, he should be on this list. Maybe a bit inflated when you look at who he's in ahead of, but Marmaduke was awesome, and I wish he would come back and pug. He was awesome. Blackie Monster. So Blackie Monster won once. I think I played an Ultra Duo tournament with Blackie Monster once, and we won. That's how good I was at the game back then. I was just a savant. The versatility. I could just win Ultra Duo tournaments. Sure, I guess. I don't know. Like, he was a medic player, and he won. But I think he's one of those players. Like, he played for Complexity or like the Platinum team or whatever. And he's another one of those players that, despite winning, like I think he was very clearly not like the best medic playing. So like I think he kind of like quickly got replaced by somebody that was like fucking insane. Because 2012 is like really late. Like that was like way past his prime. Um, I guess I don't mind it. I mind it that he shouldn't be ahead of Muma, but I don't mind in a vacuum that he's number 79. Um, Definitely one of the medics that like I think of from back then. Uh, I think he did like move around on the keyboard with one finger, so I don't know if that um, should affect his placement at all. But sure. Paragon and Deadbolt. This is when I started like really like not. This is when like I looked at this list and I was like, because like I like the content and I like the premise of the list, but I really think that like it's like a huge undertaking. Like I'm not the one making the list, so like it's a little bit like hypocritical and like like I'm just like criticizing something that I probably could never do, but it should be as accurate as it possible. Like I know they're twins and like haha they're next to each other, but Deadbolt was a better player than Paragon and could play both scout and demo to like a higher level than Paragon. Paragon was like should have like a sniper here because he was a really good sniper, but Deadbolt like I think was like a very clear like half a tier ahead of Paragon because he was like not only really good scout but switched to demo and like made that team like kind of formidable on demo. So I mean like whatever, they definitely deserve to be on this list. Haha, they're twins, they're next to each other. Moving on. Cookie Jake should obviously be on this list. I think having Cookie Jake below someone like Kryptonite and Trip is a little bit strange because like he is a like he's a really good medic and he won a season, made playoffs every single time, and was like sort of like a staple medic, right? Like he was like one of the best in the game when things when like people like me quit and stuff like that. And again, like winning an I series is like fucking huge. Like that's huge. Like that's so much competition. It's like even if you go to I series and there are no other NA teams there, you should have such like it should really affect your ranking positively if you like place well. Because like the Euro teams are like pretty much just as good as they're pretty much just as good as the NA teams, and they're also like big wildcard teams. So like, if you're like the best team, if you're the best NA team, you go to an NA LAN like an ESEA LAN, you're playing against like people that you've probably been beating up on for the last like 5 seasons. Like that was like my experience playing on Freotech for the most part, like from season 16 to like 21 or 20 or whatever. I was like going to LANs and like beating players that I had been beating for like years. So like I knew exactly what they were going to do, how they played. Sometimes they threw some like curveballs in, but like for the most part, I knew exactly what was going on. Like when you go to an I series and you play against the best EU teams, like they're really like different. And it's like really impressive to win an I series at all whatsoever, because they can like throw so many like 5 different curveballs at you based on what team you're playing against. So no, I think that should be weighed pretty heavily. So you should definitely be higher on this list. Kryptonite, don't really know anything about Kryptonite. 6 seasons played, 4 playoff appearances. I mean, again, like he's like one of those players where like I think he probably could be on the list, but he should be within like the 100 to 80 tier of people who either played a really, really long time ago. It is so red. The chat is so red. You should like I think 100 to 80 should ideally be people who either played a really, really long time ago and like won some like Mickey Mouse championship, or people who just made a lot of playoffs, right? Like were like 4th place finishers, 3rd place finishers for a long time, and that should comprise like the first 20 or so of placements in the list. Having like Kryptonite be ahead of like people like again like Muma is like a huge snub, I think. because like again, like you should probably be on the list, but and like before I go any further, I think it's like important to say like this is like a list of like the top 100 NA players. Like that's not a lot of people. Like it's really not a lot of people. Like 100 sounds like a lot, but when you think of all the people that played Invite TF2 and even who won, that's not that many people. So like I think people are looking at like not being included on this list as like a snub, but it's like not really a snub. Like not being on like the top 100 people of either performers or people who won in TF2 from the year 2007 until now is like not a snub. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, like not a lot of people played TF2, but like TF2's also been played literally since 2008 competitively. So like, is it really like a snub if you're not on like the 100 best players? Of like, I don't know. I feel like it's not really like a snub, and people are treating it like it is. Yeah, I can link the thread in it right now. Um, you'll have to like go up and down or whatever if you want to like check the different tiers or whatever, but that should like at least bring you to this list and you can get to the hub that way. But yeah, I don't know. Again, like probably a good player. Again, didn't really play against him at all, but should definitely not be ahead of people like Muma or anybody who like won multiple times and like were like good, like tag, were like good performers and like really competitive eras of the game. Losing my voice, man. Oh fuck. Um, Purple shirt. Another player I really didn't play against all that much, even though I've been scrimming with him recently. Wink, wink. Um, I feel like in a vacuum, this like isn't the worst placement. But again, when you like compare it to who's around him, then I think it could potentially feel like a snub. Um, like in a vacuum, yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like Trip should not be ahead of Purple Shirt. Like in a vacuum, right? If I'm just envisioning this like abstract, arbitrary list in my head of top 100 players, like if you told me like Purple Shirt number 75, I'd be like, all right, you know. But when you say like, oh, purple shirt number 74, but below Trip and below Sandblast, I'd be like, eh. Love you, Sandblast. Um, I don't know. Like, I think it's like a little bit weird when you look at who he's around. No, no, no. I think Sandblast is actually accurately put in this list. I was just joking because I was scrolling down trying to find people. But yeah, I don't know. Like when you compare it to like people around him, I think it might be a little bit of a snub. But also like a snub for Muma in reverse because like again, like I don't know, it's weird. 72 Zilly, like again, I didn't really play that much with Zilly. You guys probably tell me more if it's like a snub or not. um, Anyone I think who can play medic at a really high level deserves to be on this list. How high up the list? Next tier, we'll stop hearing about Muma. But yeah, like again, like there should be like no like anyone who just made playoffs as like their sort of like reigning achievement, crowning achievement, should be ahead of people who have like won. It's not finished yet. This is just from 100 to 50 because I was gonna do a reaction from like the entire list, but I don't want to be sitting here for like 5 hours talking. So the next like 50 to 1 will be like a similarly long like speech, probably even longer because every placement matters more. So yeah, whatever. Sandblast again, like in a vacuum, probably a good placement. Really good scout, good stats. Um, sure. Delpo number 70. Didn't really play against Delpo. I heard he was like fucking insane on Soldier. And like I checked out the little like montage or whatever. Um, Definitely deserves to be on this list. Whether it should be number 70 or not, who knows? Um, but definitely deserves to be on this list. Jarrett, 6 out of 10 seasons played were playoff seasons. See, like this is like where it's like sort of like this is a longevity thing. You know what I mean? This is like start playing in 2015, you end in 2019, you played 10 seasons, 6 of them you made playoffs. You probably should be below a lot of the people that are below you. Just looking at all the achievements from players tiers past, I don't think that he like really fits the bill. Like again, like probably a person that I would put on the list, but probably too high in my opinion. Nick. Nick's placement I don't really mind that much. Like Nick played so long. Like Ninja Nick played so fucking long. Um and a lot of a lot of that gameplay was like straight up like when whatever seasons he played with like Mile High Militia and all those people. I forget, was it like no, not Velocity. Vector. Those were like bottom 8, like 7th place, 8th place, 6th place invite placements. So like the longevity here like matters, but like a lot of those years were definitely not like top performing years. Eventually, yeah, he played with like Show. He played with me the season that he won, and that's huge. Sure, I mean, like I think this is like a good placement. I would say he definitely shouldn't be lower. If anything, I would like say like maybe higher. But like then again, like Skis is also right next to him. Who I mean, I think like mechanically these players are very similar. But Skis also did win 3 times, even if it was like with Banny. Like winning, he did win 3 times. So like for there to be one placement of a difference between Skis and Nick, a little strange, especially because like they're both medic players, so you'd think that like one would kind of fit a different tier. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Skis 67, won 3 times, 7 playoff appearances. You know, one of the best medics in the game. But like then again, you get to Shamu. Never played with Shamu or against Shamu really. Um, but he 7 playoff appearances out of 12 seasons played, and he's ahead of a lot of people who have won. Don't even want to go back and scroll up, but a lot of people have like won multiple championships and like were not ahead of Shamu. So like another like questionable placement, I think. Like again, don't really know much about him. Like he probably deserves to be on this list. He played like for a long time after I quit. But like just looking like accolade wise, eh. I don't even have to say Muma. Like I could just say Tag or Skis or Nick, you know? Um, yeah, I mean, like I'm sure he has like deadly amazing DM, but I don't really. I think FPH is frags per hour, man. Trust me, I looked at FPH and I was like, what the fuck is that? Because like matches aren't even an hour, so like I don't know why it wouldn't just be like frags per minute. I don't know, to be honest. I assume it's frags per hour. I don't know why it's not just divided by 60. I guess it's just an ESEA stat, but I've never seen FPH ever. Like even when I played like ESEA, I did like I looked at my stats all the time. I don't think I ever saw FPH. Yeah, I mean, I guess because 47 is more impressive than 0.9, but it's like very confusing because I literally didn't even know what the fuck it meant. Um, I think we just have to normalize like, looking at decimals. Anyway, it's like I don't know, like putting people like ahead of other people who have won championships because like you thought their DM was really good, or they have like a high FPH is like a little bit weird because there are like a lot of things that can affect like the amount of frags you get per hour in the game. Like especially if you're on like a fourth place invite team and like let's say you're like the best player on your team, you're gonna be getting like a lot more frags. So I don't know. Like I'm sure he's like very good, but he like I don't know. I don't think it's like number 66 level good when you compare it to the people that are before him. Yogg snuck the fuck up onto this list. Yogg just did like a 2008 rocket jump into this fucking list, and I don't know how. Because this is a great example. Yogg should be like fucking in the 90s, dude. If anything, 80s, 90s. This is like old school super boomer TF2. Like he played a little bit longer than they did, but like his prime was like a long time ago. Like really like 2009 level gameplay was 2009, 2010, if that was like Yogg prime level. But yeah, like Reptile is saying, I think he should be around Paladin, Felon, Hubris. Like he was like a good player back then, quit pretty early, didn't do much more after like, yeah, he did get a lot of frags per hour. I will agree with that. But that was like a long time ago, man. Like 2008, 2009, like that's fucking long ass time ago. And like he quit pretty early and then like never came back to prove that he still got it or anything. I definitely don't want to make a new top 100. I think I have a lot to offer in terms of like my opinion on a top 100 list, but I don't want to be like the main person making it. I don't have like the time for that. But yeah, I mean, Yogg snuck the fuck up on this list. Fucking great during season 3. By the way, no LAN, not even LAN TF2. So like again, I know like ESEA, like we're in like a non-LAN version of the game right now, but like this is like not LAN, but also in the year 2008 or 9. So I think that's even worse. I don't know. Again, y'all should definitely not be ahead of these people. This is like an honorable mention to like the fucking 90 range, I think, if I would put anybody here. KBK, played a season with him. KBK, super cool guy. KBK, haven't talked to him in a while. KBK literally thinks I'm like the greatest video game player of all time. I swear to God. KBK on like multiple situations has on multiple instances has told me like how the fuck are you like he'll watch me like play CS:GO. I'll be like fucking DMG or like Eagle. He's like, dude, how are you fucking own at every game? I'm like, dude, what are you? I'm not good at this game. So KBK had a very favorable opinion of me. Played with him one season. Super cool guy. Don't think he should be ahead of Skis or Nick. I don't know. I think like he played at the same time as like somebody like Nick and wasn't obviously better. Never kept playing and never like proved himself enough to like a Banny team to be like picked up on that team. He loads up my stream instead of Pornhub. More power to him, man. I wouldn't put him ahead of like Nick though. Like he definitely deserves to be on this list. He's someone like that I thought of like even when like the list came out into fruition. But I don't think he should be ahead of Nick, who's also my homie by the way. So it's okay if I throw KBK under the bus because I also love Ninja Nick and Skis. Skis subs to my stream. So fuck it. Free State. 4 championships on Free State. Was like a very good player. Uh, Played like a really like supportive role that like a lot of people wouldn't be able to shine in. Like for example, like when I came back and I played the Free State on the Movement team with Banny, I had a very particular way of playing Scout back then. Um, my strategy playing Scout was I would watch the flank and get buffs and fight and not build the Uber. And then when we had to Uber, I would take the Uber. So like think of like how little Free State got to do back then. And like he was still like a really good scout and had like really good stats and we won. And he was a big instrumental part of us winning, I think, like even that one season. And he went on to win even more. So I mean, definitely deserves to be on this list. I think it's like a little bit of a snub for sure when you like consider the people that he's around. Yeah, I like Free State. Love that guy. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he's super cool. Mezzer. I'm glad Mezzer's on this list because Mezzer was somebody I thought of when this list was first announced and like people were talking about it. I was like, where the fuck is Mezzer going to be? Because like Mezzer absolutely deserves to be on this list. But I don't think he should be ahead of Free State. But anyway, Mezzer was like a really good player. Mezzer's like one of those people that you can honestly use like the eye test for, not even just the eye test, but like if you were like around back then, you knew like how good Mezzer was. Like he also went on to, you know, at first be like a really good player in Overwatch. He was on like top teams then. He was like sponsored by Liquid. So he's like a gamer. Like Mezzer's a fucking gamer. And he was really fucking good at TF2. Like he was really good at Scout. I think he played like a season of like something that wasn't Scout. But then like became a medic. And he was like good at everything he played. Like literally whatever Mezzer wanted to play, like he could be invite level at it. He was really smart. Like one of like the more mechanical medics back then too, because he was like an actually good, like Mezzer was one of the first players to play medic that were just like good video game players. Like this is how it worked with medic early on in TF2 is a bunch of people wanted to play TF2, super fun game to play and shoot people in. No one wanted to play medic, right? So like either somebody volunteered medic and like that's how they got themselves onto like really good teams is they like got good at medic and then they were like, oh, now I'm healing the best scout in the game and like I'm on one of the best teams. And then like as time went on, obviously the talent pool grows. So like you get more and more people who play medic. And Mezzer was one of those people who was just a really good gamer. And it showed on medic. Like he was like just even back then, like obviously it's nothing compared to now with like the way medics can like crossbow and like surf like everything and like stay alive for so long, but he was really good at that back then. And yeah, and he was like a multi-class like star. He like won a championship. Definitely deserves to be here. Zalox. To be honest, somebody I kind of forgot about. Probably like a little bit inflated on this list, I would say. When you compare him to like the contemporaries or like the people that he's placed near. Zalox definitely really good at demo, but he wasn't ever like in best demo like contention or best demo talks. But he's like ahead of like again like Free State Mezzer, my boy Yogg. I don't know. I wouldn't really like. It's definitely a surprise pick for me for number 61. Definitely deserves to be on this list, but I don't think he should be ahead of a lot of these people that have like won and were like dominant. But definitely good. 60 to 51. So this is the last group of 10. This is like when shit is really starting to pick up. Even like the last tier is like that shit's picking up. Like getting to number 60 is like pretty big. 61, 65. Number 60 Squid definitely feels like a bit of a snub. All things considered. Squid was really good. What did I think of Boar's placement? I don't really know anything about Boar, like I just kind of scrolled past it because it was like a number 92. I mean, like people are in my chat are gonna be like, "Oh, mention Mooma again," but he shouldn't be ahead of Mooma, and it's ridiculous. So I mean, that's all I have to say. Squid number 60 is like a little bit of a, like it does say like one championship, but you have to realize like Squid was playing against like me and Banny. Like that's who he was losing to. Um, and that's like pretty big. Like I don't know, like losing to just like me and Banny, and then like being like a pretty solid every single season second place is huge. And then like beating Banny like before Froyo Tech was made, again like he Squid caused Froyo Tech to happen. If Squid like wasn't if they didn't win that last season, I never would have been on Froyo Tech. Right? Like they won season 15, where Benny was playing with like Tag and whoever, and he remade the team season 16 because he didn't want to lose again because they had lost to mix up with Squid. So Squid like a little bit of a snub, like beat Banny, Froyo Tech was formed, and then he was second place to Froyo Tech every single season while being like a really like well performing scout. Like Squid was actually really good. Like as you can see, like look at these fucking frags per hour, man. But like again, like when you consider like the I series performances and like just literally getting second every single time to Banny only, it's pretty. I don't know. I think it's a pretty big snub, especially when he's like behind Smacka, who like won way like Smacka again. Like I think should be on this list. Love Smacka, but this is more like a longevity thing than anything else because Smacka won a long time ago. And was sort of just like a pretty good player that would like pug and like, you know, he was like good at multiple classes and stuff, but he was like not on Squid's level. So yeah, the FPH is off the charts. So I don't know. I mean, Smacka definitely on this list. Probably shouldn't be ahead of Squid. Mackie, another one that just he just fucking 2008 rocket jumped onto this list like just like a little teardrop, a little fucking little bunny onto the list right here. Mackie, pretty instrumental part of EMG back then. I love Mackie. He did use a rocket jump script to rocket jump. So whether or not that should place him ahead of somebody like Free State is questionable. What's up, Milo? Love you. Where's Milo on this list? That's my fucking question. But yeah, I mean, he won twice, made playoffs every single season that he played. I feel like he definitely wasn't like a top performer on anything. He did actually have a really good sniper. I was like rewatching Mackie Legacy and he was like fucking popping heads left and right. So, you know, pretty good at that. But like again, he wasn't like not a top performing soldier. He like wasn't like that good. Smart player, I would say, but like his like DM capabilities and like mechanical skills like really held him back in a lot of ways. Definitely obviously deserves to be on the list, but like probably a pretty inflated rank when you like consider the people that were snubbed in his place. Let's see, like we won season 9, which is my first LAN. Won season 11. That was without him though. Won season 9 with him, lost season 10. Season 11 was Dave AC, and then he came back for I-46, I think, and we got second. And then he was gone again. So, like, he won season 7, like the original, like, YZ50, like, kills everybody in the server season. And then the season 9 with me. And then we got second at I-46. I mean, he has, like, a lot of, like, accolades, but, like, also all of these accolades are on Banny teams, and it was, like, when the game was easier. And there's less wins than Free State. So, a little bit questionable. And again, like this is like when we're getting close to number 50. So like placements like really start to matter over time. Indust. Indust like was always like a really like good player, like mechanically as medic, like should be on this list for sure. But like when you compare Indust to other medics that like I mean, I guess like Indus was like definitely like a top performing medic. Like definitely like started like the Zoomer medic era of being like fucking crazy good at like surfing and getting out. Um but like I don't he like his prime was like here, and then like half of the seasons played, he made playoffs, never won a single time. And like I made this point on the forums as well, where like a lot of the time people say check the DPH, true. A lot of people say like, oh, you know, he never won because he played against Banny, or he never won because he played against Mixup. I think like the climate in TF2 is very different. In TF2, you can play with whoever the fuck you want to play with, right? For the most part. Like if Banny wants to play with you, you're playing with Banny. If Platinum wants to play with you, you're playing with Platinum. Um, that's not the same thing as other esports, right? If like another esport, if TF2 were a huge esport, right? And I was playing against at the time Sizer and Shrugger on Freyo, or not Freyo at the time, they were like IT or whatever. If I were playing against them and I was like another top performing scout, like it would be really hard to like, for example, cut Sizer for me and then have me and Shrugger on that team, because you would be like competing with contracts, right? Like it'd be like, oh, Shrugger wants like 20K a month and we don't have enough money to offer Clockwork 25 a month, so like we have to give Sizer like, you know, 15 or 10K a month or whatever, you know? So like it's really hard in like other esports that are like really big to play with the people that you want to play with and the people that um are going to get you to win. So like a lot of the time when like players are really good in this game, they just kind of find their way onto the best team, right? Like Free State is a great example of that. Like Free State was like a really good player. Furry Tech was in shambles, and Benny was like, I picked Free State, I picked this guy, I picked this guy, and then Furry Tech was born, and then Free State won 4 times. So it's like really easy to like make your way onto like either a number 2 or number 1 team if you're really good, because like there's no contract to tell you can't join. Benny, as much as he used to say, doesn't want to like kill TF2 by picking up the second best or the best player on the second team, on the second best team, does it anyway. And then you wind up showing up on Banny's team, and then you win. But that's like a testament to how good you are, right? Like it's not your fault that like you're on Freyo. Like you were so good that you were on Freyo. Like that's how it was, you know? And like, for example, like Tyrone and Mackie weren't good enough. And then like contractually they couldn't stay on the team because there were no contracts. So they just got like replaced by like Tag, who was really good. So like giving Tag like, you know, saying like, oh, you only won because you were on Banny's team. It's like, okay, well, you were also good enough to be picked up by Banny. You know what I mean? So, Indus in this case was never really picked up by a team that could win. I think he played on Mix Up a couple seasons. Honestly, things are getting blurry at that point in time, but like he never won. And then compared to like medics nowadays that have won and have been playing for a long time, maybe a bit of an inflated rank. Indus definitely like kick-started like the super mechanical medic play, so he like deserves like extra props for that, I think. But yeah, Grape. I would say this is like a fair enough placement for Grape, because like Grape is like in a tier of his own where like sure he has not won. But Grape was like an insane soldier. So like I think like when you look at like accolades like this where it's like playoff appearances 4, seasons played 5, Grape was really fucking good. So it's like he wasn't just like a player that was like playing on the third best team. He was like a really fucking good soldier that was playing against Mix Up and playing against me. So it's like, you know, it's tough. It's tough to like win in that situation. And like you were saying before, like per your last point, what do I think about someone like Grape who could have been on Freya but never made it? Sometimes you just get unlucky. You know, we don't like lose, like people don't quit, and then like Grape was never in the position to be playing when somebody else had quit on Freya, so he wasn't picked up, but he was definitely good enough to. And like his skip, but his FPH definitely like does tell a tale. You know, like he was a really good soldier, like definitely one of the most mechanically skilled soldiers that like played in NA TF2 for sure. So like you have to like weigh that third place differently when like they're literally carrying their teams. Um, like he carried Street Hoops, like straight up. So yeah, I mean I don't disagree with the placement. This is when like it really starts to like matter, like what like the individual performances of the player and like whether that outdoes like one season one with Banny and stuff like that. 404. 404 like definitely like he actually reminds me a lot of Indust, where like he was like very much like a mechanically skilled medic. Like he would like always find the surf out. He had like really good bows and stuff. I would say this placement is pretty fair. I mean, you'll have to see as time goes on whether he should be like placed ahead of somebody else or not. But like 404 was like a really good medic. The accolades tell the story itself. Like 9 playoff appearances, 11 seasons played. He has like the longevity. He has the skill. If anything, this feels like a snub off the bat, just because of like how fucking crazy his accolades are and how long he played as like one of the best medics in the game. But we'll have to see, I guess, because we haven't made it quite to under 50. Decimate. Yeah, I mean, Decimate should definitely be on this list. This is when, like, if you were really nitpicking, like, I would definitely put 404 ahead of Decimate. Like, it's only like one in difference, you know, like one placement in difference, but like the accolades like really like tell the whole story here. Like Decimate unfortunately like left that team right before they won, like the Ascent era teams. But yeah, like Decimate should not be higher than Squid. I agree with that. Um, just sort of like strangely ordered. Like as you like see like you just reminded me like there are so many people like you see in this list and you're like, oh, maybe a little bit of a snub, and then like 3 snubs later you see somebody like Decimate and you forget like about like the top snub. And like in this case I think Squid is very much in that situation. Like Squid was definitely like a more like he was just better than Decimate like pretty much all around, like even like accolade wise, like he like played pretty much just as long, was on the second best team, beat Decimate over and over and over again. On mix up, was like a better performing scout, I would say, at least like eye test wise. I don't know what the FPH is, how they line up or whatever, but should probably not be ahead of Squid, but I think deserves to be like within this range, like the 60 to 50 range. Aim is like probably another player I would have like around this range. Like I think if anything, like Aim being ahead of like people like Squid would be like entirely based on longevity. Um, he won one championship. It was like a Banny championship. Um, but like pretty much his longevity here is like what puts him at 53. I would probably move him down like maybe like one like tier or something, or have him like more toward 60 than 50. But he's definitely somebody I think of when I think of like pro TF2, and he's definitely like was always like a pretty good soldier player, like all in all, like a top performer type person. Um, and like was always like sort of like a really good player slash the best player on his team. Until he was on Froyo Tech and Ascent and stuff, and then he was just trading like seconds and firsts. Dingo. This feels a lot like a 2008 rocket jump onto this list. Like Dingo, like longevity wise, played like a shit ton. Definitely deserves to be top 100. I don't think Junie here should be ahead of a lot of the people above me. I really, I don't know if Dingo's still in chat. I like Dingo. He's funny as fuck. I have this really funny, fuck. I don't think I have it uploaded on anything linkable right now. But on one of like my better TF2 clips, he's just like fucking rambling in the background. And it's really funny. But Dingo, like definitely like a good player, like for sure an inflated rank. Like this is like entirely longevity. And this is where like I think a lot of like personal bias might come into play because he's yeah, just Adam. He's definitely good, but he's not like number 52 good, especially like over like a lot of these people. It's kind of crazy. I actually haven't even read the blurb about this. Class diversity, again, I don't really value all that much unless you were like extremely dominant on all of them. Like for example, platinum, um, platinum. What's the other one? I was thinking Banny. Jesus Christ, Banny, platinum. Like those were like top performers on like every single class. Like, except I mean, platinum wasn't a scout, but like platinum could be like a top soldier, a top demo. Banny, top scout, top soldier, top demo. Yomps, like crazy good performers across multiple different classes. Um, and like for example, in my case, like I could have been on a fourth place, third place team on demo. I wasn't, but I could have been if I wanted to. It's just not really the same. I couldn't have been on a top one team or a top two team as demo probably, but I could have been on a top three or four or five. And so like a lot of these people that get like class versatility for that is like at a certain point when you're really good at the game, those classes like don't like you can like go from like a pretty good performance on any class in the game to another class on the game with a pretty good performance. It's just like you know the game, you know how to play, um, and that's it. But Dingo like deserves to be on this list. Probably should not be ahead of like a lot of these people. Wonderwall. Wonderwall definitely deserves to be on this list. Made playoffs every season he played. Was always like a really good player. Like he played on teams like Apoplexy Industries, which people don't even remember. And he was always like a really good scout soldier. Like he was like really like a Zoomer soldier before like Zoomers existed on Soldier. He like was always really good at like suiciding in on Soldier and like going for medic picks and like doing crazy rocket jumps and stuff. Um, so he was like definitely really good. Like again, like played in like in the middle of ESEA's golden era. Like was always like really good, and definitely deserves to be on this list. Don't really know if I put him ahead of some of these people, like 404, Squid. I probably wouldn't put him ahead of. I don't think. I think that really matters. Like, I think like for example, Squid is number 60. Wonderwall is number 51. Like that's a huge difference. Like that really is like a huge. This is getting like closer and closer to like the 40th best player or something. You know, like that's like a very small amount of people. And he shouldn't be ahead of Squid, but he should be on this list for sure. Definitely deserves it. Was one of the best soldiers I played against back in the day. But yeah, shouldn't be ahead of like some of these people that have like crazy good. Like Wonderwall to me is a lot like Grape, where like Wonderwall was like a really good soldier that never quite won, but like had a lot of skill. Like the eye test told you that like he was a very good player, but like he probably could only be like recognized for like his skill on like the third or second, usually third best team in the game. I don't really think that outweighs like someone like Squid, for example. But yeah, that's all we got for now.